Thank you so much for joining us live today. My name is Adam Olsen, your host of Innovation Heroes, and I'm very excited with this space today with our special guests, Dyan Finkhousen and Cal Sahota. Dyan is the founder and CEO of ShoshinWorks, and Cal is the president and CEO of HeroX. Both bring an abundance of knowledge and incredible insights into the open innovation space. Today, we are going to be discussing how open innovation has developed over the past decade and the impact a strong strategic partnership network can have and the value it can create when writing proposals. So welcome, Dyan and Cal. Thanks so much for taking your time out of your day to join us. Before we get started, maybe you can share a little bit about yourselves and what fires you up most about being a major part of the open innovation ecosystem. Dyan, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks. And thanks everyone for joining us. Goodness, what fires me up about being part of this open innovation movement? I'm just really a veteran open innovation. I'll just say junkie. I have believed quite passionately for a very long time that open innovation can unlock so much goodness for organizations that are looking for new solutions, both expected and unexpected. And on the flip side of that equation, open innovation is a really powerful way to democratize the opportunity landscape, where anyone with a great idea, a great solution, or a passion for a better tomorrow can show up and make a pretty extraordinary difference. The magic in the middle is open innovation, and I've seen it make such a difference in outcomes for so long that I'm really passionate about helping organizations understand how and where and to what degree open innovation can be applied and how they can undertake their own journey. So that's what I think I'm chasing with open innovation, and I've just been so grateful, really for many years now, to have such a great partner in Cal and HeroX. So with that, over to you, Cal.
Man, you stole the words, right? See, that's why we're so aligned, and that's why we have such a great relationship and we partner so beautifully together. But I think, Dyan, you kind of hit the nail on the head. And I think for myself personally, I think it was probably the second one that you shared, which is democratizing opportunities. And I think, I really shudder to think if we all had the same opportunities to contribute, where would we be as humans of this world and citizens of this world? Where would we be? What problems could we have eradicated that we all suffer with every single day? And the whole idea of, regardless of what color, creed, religion, social background, where in the world, this big, beautiful world that you reside, that you have the exact same opportunity as that potential Harvard or MIT grad, not taking anything away from their credentialization, but just, that's such a small percentage of the world. So the idea that to open it up to the whole of the world, so if you have an idea, you get the same opportunities as those that have gone to those great schools to contribute and make an impact. So I would say that fires me up every single morning. I'm hugely passionate about this space. And, I'm 52 years old in a few weeks, and I probably work harder today than I ever have in my life. And I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Oh, happy early birthday, Cal.
It's still in November, but you know what? If I start calling myself 52, it won't be as in November, right?
the impact won't be as hard. Well, you guys certainly have quite a bit of passion for the open innovation space, but I know you guys are both veterans, been in the space for a long time. But what were you doing before you got into open innovation, and what brought you to the space?
I can start with that one first. So mine is pretty straightforward. So 25 years of my career was spent in the financial services industry. So I had the absolute pleasure of working with some amazing people, different teams and organizations throughout my career. I had a range of roles over the years, from a financial advisor to a sales manager for Western Canada for Standard Life, and the list of roles goes on. But it was really my last role at a small boutique tax and estate planning firm, Westward Advisors, that really brought me to HeroX. My experience at Westward was, it brought me out of that corporate mindset and back into that entrepreneurial environment, which was really, I think, put me on a trajectory and a path to HeroX. And I always like to say that all roads led to HeroX, and it was very serendipitous how I wound up here. The owner of Westward Advisors, I worked very closely with him to grow his business, but he jokingly said, "Look, you helped me grow the business so much, you've literally worked yourself out of a job, Cal. So I'll take care of you for a few months, but you're going to have to sort yourself out. Oh, but wait, there's this guy that I knew that recently started an internet startup." So Rob is the president and founder of Westward Advisors. So I spoke to him on a Thursday afternoon. And the next day, 9 a.m. on Friday, I spoke to Christian Cottacini, who's one of the co-founders of HeroX. And as they say, the rest is history. So that was over 7 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's so powerful. And it's amazing how accessible the innovation field is, right? You can and do. You can see so many very, very accomplished veteran professionals undertaking the innovation journey. And it's, I think, to your point, Cal, it really, the success formula for open innovation and innovation is just a solutions mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
An abundance mindset. Mm-hmm. As someone who has the vision to see the potential for a better tomorrow, and the courage to kind of make that path possible. So funny to listen to you. I didn't realize how closely aligned our backgrounds and our journeys have been. I too started out in financial services, 24 years at GE, 13 of which were in financial services, GE Capital.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And
That's right.
serendipitous journey as well. So I held a marketing leadership roles, product and platform leadership roles, and jumped into the corporate team as we started to undertake the Internet of Things journey at GE.
Right.
And started really helping the business unit leaders in aircraft, power, et cetera, aviation, power, water, to rethink their relationship with the markets that they served, right? As the technologies and capabilities to give the industrial equipment a voice and became more mainstream. The Internet of Things really challenged us to rethink our identity, rethink our relationship with the markets and the clients that we served, and certainly reach deeper into skills and capabilities that were in some cases not on our core team. So when I took the corporate job, I just was asked to take on the management midstream of 2 open innovation challenges, which were launched for public relations purposes, really to signal our intent to move into the industrial internet. As I took on the management of those open innovation projects, it became so clear to me how powerful it could be to bring together a community of experts, of enthusiasts, of folks that were just passionate about problem solving. That to me there was something much more than just PR headlines. There was something very powerful in that collaboration. And when I finished those two projects, there were 3 months each, and tallied up the kind of the outcomes and the summary for our leadership team. In those two projects, we had basically the work equivalent of having hired 550 full-time employees for an entire year. So I knew that as we were transforming our organization, right, with the industrial internet, we needed more agility, more skills diversity. So we started socializing the concept of setting up an operation for open innovation at corporate, and just to begin to experiment, how far we could take that model. So we did. Beth Comstock sponsored us, and I undertook a journey that frankly I just haven't looked back ever since. I've been working in this space at GE for 7 years. We scaled the open innovation, open talent ecosystem at GE for about 6.5 years. And then in 2019, I exited GE and started up my own consulting business in the same. And like you, I've just been so passionate about this.
I think that's what makes maybe our journey also a little bit distinct, because I think you leaned into open innovation while you were still in corporate. And I think with myself, it wasn't until I completely exit that side did I actually start to really experience that when I arrived at HeroX. So I was a bit of a deer in headlights when I got to HeroX. But as I'm sure, for those of our listeners who are familiar with crowdsourcing, the concept is actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. So there isn't a lot of complexity to the whole idea of it. But I think your experience, though, Dan, I think of being in that corporate environment and trying to really navigate such a nuance of new way of thinking and new way of moving forward in an environment that was more than likely very traditional. I'm sure that's where some of your learnings that you brought to ShoshinWorks.
That's a great point. And it's an important one for our listeners too. It is so much easier working with a partner that can kind of step you through the paces of open innovation. A partner like HeroX or even Shoshin. You don't have to have a lot of experience. You just need to have a problem and an appetite for a better outcome. And there are professionals that can guide you through the process, whether you're new to these types of methodologies or a veteran. The key is to, I think, really just recognize that no single organization has the ability or the reach to hire all the smartest people. Right? And there are brilliant minds out there that can help you think around corners, that can help you find better solutions, generate better ideas. And all you have to do really is ask.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's driven by the pace of innovation and the pace of business. We look to see how quickly things are moving today versus even like 10 years ago. I mean, the pace of business is at record levels. I mean, if you're, creating a new technology or software, chances are somebody's already thought of something that's going to make that obsolete, and they're probably in the process of creating it. So in order for, right? So in order for...
So true.
It's true, right? So, I mean, in order for organizations to really powerfully keep up with the pace of innovation and keep their businesses relevant, if you don't have, first of all, if you don't have an overall innovation strategy in place, that's the first place to start. But then ensuring that open innovation and crowdsourcing are a key element of that overall strategy is even more critical, because you want to be able to, have access to the crowd. And when Dyan and I talk about crowd, we're referencing the over 3 billion people connected to the World Wide Web. Because if you wanted to participate in a challenge and offer your ideas, there's a lot of platforms out there, HeroX being one of them, then really all you need to compete is connectivity. And that's where the whole idea of democratization is real. Because if you have connectivity, you can compete. It's just that simple. So just as easy as it is for innovators to show up and compete, there are really simple processes that guide organizations in really leveraging what that process for crowdsourcing looks like. So you can come out the other end with some fantastic ideas to really move forward with your organization with brand new thought processes without bringing on, 100 new people and tapping into their minds.
Right. It's so powerful. We really, in the work that we did at GE, we wanted to understand the boundaries of these new methodologies. They were reasonably new at that time. Goodness, I feel old even saying this, but we wanted to test open innovation with our own crowd, leveraging open innovation with our GE employees. We also wanted to test to see if there were any areas of the business that weren't well suited to open innovation, or at that time also open talent and experts on demand. And the work that we were doing, I've subsequently learned, is very analogous to what Jeff Parker and Marshall Van Alstyne refer to as inverting the firm in their book, The Platform Revolution.
Right.
But so we really tested open innovation in our legal operations, our IT, HR, finance, engineering, and found that the models are so flexible and so easily configurable that there are really virtually no limits to the type of work that can be supported with the new open methodologies. You just have to deploy really what I've come to refer to as advanced work design. So if you need to work on more sensitive types of work, there are ways to do that with curated crowds. But it just takes a little bit of practice and knowledge of the different methodologies. But concerns like intellectual property, confidentiality, valid concerns, but easily managed. So it's important for organizations to understand that there are governance systems that can be implemented to make these tools powerful across the full spectrum of problems that organizations need to solve. I'm sure you see a lot of that, Cal, in the work you work with so many amazing clients.
We do.
You have to see so many best practices.
Oh yeah.
Across the.
And I think Adam, we ran away with the show. Sorry.
No problem. That is no problem at all. You guys were going back and forth really well, but I think that's a great transition to maybe chat about the work each of you do with your clients and the distinctions between Shoshin and HeroX.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And maybe a little bit about what the day-to-day looks like for both of you.
Yeah, that's a good one. So what does my day-to-day look like, Adam? Let's see. So my official role is president and CEO, but as to what I do on any given day, we have a very flat org chart at HeroX. So my day-to-day might be participating in strategy sessions or joining podcasts like I am here now, conducting shareholder meetings, or maybe participating in a team meeting led by another team member and opting to capture notes. So it's very much a flat org chart. What we're up to is we basically go wherever we're needed. And we've planned our quarters out with our goals and our tactics. And we basically lean into whatever it is that we planned ourselves out for the quarter. But I'll say, authentically speaking, as to when I wake up every morning, what is my main focus? I ask myself, how do I inspire? You know, we hold our company culture and our core values at the utmost of importance. It's foundational to who we are, and it probably actually offers us a bit of an unfair advantage. You know, leadership is about powerfully compelling leadership out of each and every team member, and whatever that may be for them. It's simple, but it's hugely powerful when you think of having a full team firing on all cylinders. Tell each and every one of them, I'm not smarter than any of you guys. You guys are probably smarter than me. Put your CEO hats on. So imagine if we all showed up that way, the lift an organization gets and the trajectory to where we can go is just beyond what we could imagine. So that's what my day-to-day looks like conceptually and what's in my mind. Dyan, what does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, very similar. And I think this is why we're so well aligned and we consistently find ways to cross paths. But I believe very strongly in the potential of the work that we do to, and this is my guiding philosophy, that the open models that we are deploying, the ecosystem models that we are deploying have the power to optimize business performance and elevate the human experience. And I come back to that in every bit of work that I do, that I support, and the teams that I work with. And I don't work with every client that comes along. I work with those clients that have a strong passion for better outcomes and a better tomorrow. And we focus together on optimizing business performance and elevating the human experience. And that, with these open models, that is an and, not an or statement. Historically, if you look back to the post-industrial revolution kind of era, where really for so many decades, the world had business kind of on the assembly line, right? And it was really a function of ratcheting that productivity into the business performance. And so, for so long, organizations have focused on productivity, and we've seen business cycles which have driven, labor cuts and then staffing up and then labor cuts. And really the open models, the ecosystem-based models that we're deploying give the organization the ability to reach beyond the boundaries of their organizations, to democratize the prosperity pathways for solution providers, and to drive better outcomes, abundant outcomes, in a resilient organizational structure. So for me, I get up in the morning, right? And when I'm working with clients, I'm thinking about what kind of elite problems they're solving and how we can rethink work, the workforce, and the worker experience for better outcomes using the ecosystem models. Oftentimes that begins with a digital assessment and then an evaluation of the flexible resource, which is, to me, the crowd is very analogous to the cloud, right? The transformation from the digital infrastructure has transformed to very largely cloud-based infrastructures, and the same, I believe, will happen with the workforce structure. We'll see a lot more of a crowd layer that is virtually limitless and extensible, but incredibly powerful. So that's the work that I'm doing. I'm largely focusing on helping organizations rethink what's possible and shift their operating model from traditional to highly resilient and flexible operating model.
Thanks, Dyan. That was some great insight into your day-to-day, and you as well, Cal. Maybe, Cal, you could elaborate a little bit more on kind of how you and HeroX work with clients, and then maybe touch on how you and Dyan work together and complement each other's services on some of the partnerships and projects you've had together.
Yeah. So great question. So I guess when we're describing in our description, I guess, of HeroX, it kind of answers all of what you've just asked there. So I would say it's threefold. So HeroX is a platform, first and foremost. So not all players in the innovation space have a platform that they can leverage, which also really lends to a lot of our opportunities that we found to have really powerful partnerships. Secondly, we also have a broad, uncurated crowd. So we truly lean into the essence of crowdsourcing in that genius and human ingenuity can literally live anywhere. So we don't limit our community to a certain niche. It's a very broad, uncredentialized crowd. And lastly, one of the big distinctions actually with HeroX is that we're positioned as a social network for innovation. So it's the only place that you can build, grow, and communicate with your very own crowd. And what that looks like is when you host a crowdsourcing project on HeroX, you get your very own brand or homepage on HeroX. All your projects live there. And more importantly, your crowd stays with you. They don't disperse. So if you host one challenge, let's just say for the sake of argument, you had 100 people compete on your project. So those 100 people now live on your homepage. You host 2, 3, maybe 4 more, and now your crowd continues to grow. So, you might start with a few hundred, be at a few thousand, or maybe you can be like NASA, who's one of our busiest clients. Their crowd is well past 66,000 on HeroX, and they've hosted over 100 projects. So the more you crowdsource, the larger your community gets. Very much like LinkedIn, which is where we've drawn the parallel with the open innovation and the social network side. As to how we collaborate with clients, we really allow them to self-select what that experience looks like. The platform itself is really simple, really intuitive. There's a full knowledge base there that's not behind a paywall. So if organizations are familiar with crowdsourcing, they can come on and help themselves and just access the platform and just pay the platform fee and they're ready to go. Or they can self-select from a handful of consulting services that we offer to augment clients' experience on the platform if they so choose. So, we custom create our clients' experiences for them to make sure that each and every one of them is supported in the way that they need. And that probably lends to where our partnering comes from. But Dyan, I'll pass it over to you.
Absolutely. And I would consider myself both a client and a partner. And I think I'll also touch upon why that is. That partnership is so powerful. But really, the work that we do is, as I mentioned earlier, we are really a strategic advisor for organizations that that are undertaking a transformation really for of their operating model. And so many organizations these days, to Cal's earlier point, are feeling the pinch point of the pace of change in markets today. Markets demand organizations be a little bit more fleet of foot, if you will, and that has structural implications for companies, public and private institutions. We're seeing the many demands that the digital era places on organizations in terms of speed and foresight, financial soundness. We're seeing that it really begin to impact operational models. Organizations are having a tough time finding all the talent that they need, and frankly, even though talent is available in abundance, it's shifted zip code. So it's talent has moved into the digital arena in the many marketplaces that are available. Supply chains are a touch more fragile. We've seen evidence of that in so many headlines over the past couple of years. And so we are helping organizations find a more resilient model by deploying crowd-based models into their mainstream operations. And that has to be done in a very thoughtful way with the right governance systems. And so that's the work that we're doing. We're a strategic advisor for organizations that are undertaking an ecosystem model, a transformation to a more open model, to basically deliver both their innovation and their operational needs. And that is a not it can be a very complex journey for organizations. There are literally hundreds of marketplaces available for organizations to work with. The models available in these marketplaces are incredibly diverse, and so you have to know what to look for. You have to work with marketplaces that are mature and proven, and so we help organizations kind of sift through all of that noise of the platform economy and to understand how to bring in expert crowds like the community at HeroX into their mainstream operations. And that requires an alignment of cultural fit, operational fit, governance structures, and so the change management required in that journey is not insignificant, and we work with both the marketplace teams and community as well as the enterprise teams to kind of shape that journey so that it is disruptive and meaningful and impactful.
Yeah, just building on what you just shared there, if I could offer as well. I mean, first of all, to our listeners, it's probably really easy to see where that intersection is, where, Dyan and I and our teams collaborate so powerfully. Dyan really leans into the earlier stage of that learning and that understanding what organizations really need. And, what we found is that there's a lot of excitement around open innovation. Organizations really want to learn and understand, what's NASA up to? What are all these large brands like Airbus and Lockheed Martin, et cetera? What are they all doing? Like there's something there that we also want to tap into. But once they get into it, they realize that there's a lot more required. And in order for open innovation to really survive in an organization, it needs to be able to have a powerful company culture that's really inclusive. So if there is something within that company culture that does not create an environment of psychological safety, for example, then open innovation will inevitably fail, because individuals within the certain roles that they play within a team will start to feel that if I have this person come in and if we get all these ideas from outside, is my role then going to become obsolete? So, that's just some of the thinking. And there's other challenges which, I can envision just from my time in corporate. What kind of metrics do you wrap around this? How does that work? How do you report on a metric like this when there's so many nuances there? So there's although what we do is quite simple and it's so powerful, when you try to interject it into an existing corporate culture, there's so much there that needs to be considered. And I would offer that that's probably one of the biggest areas of stuckage that's probably preventing market adoption to a much greater degree is just that idea of how do we get it to fit. And I think that's where, Dyan, the work that you do one-on-one with a lot of these organizations is so amazing and so needed. And I think that's going to be the first place to start, to get that foundational understanding of how to make it work. Then organizations like HeroX come in and they deliver what's needed. So there's that give and take between what you're up to and what we're up to, which really, really just creates such a powerful partnership.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Al. Really, thanks for shedding light on where the kind of the handoff and the way you work with clients can go between the two of you. Is there an example of an organization or a client that you guys have partnered on to educate them on open innovation and help them build crowds?
Oh, Dyan, I'll let you run with this one. We were just chatting actually earlier. Um, I guess we don't realize we've actually collaborated over a number of years.
Yeah.
It's been a while, like from GE to the NFL to NASA. I mean, why don't
Right.
you dive into the one that you're the most excited about?
Yeah, you almost feel like a parent, and you can't have any favorites. But I do, if I'm honest, I do have favorites. And we've had so many great, really great collaborations, Cal. I feel so blessed to have had the ability to work with your team and your community on really meaningful projects. So we began our partnership, our collaboration, as you mentioned, back several years ago when GE was partnered with the National Football League and Under Armour. The NFL was really looking for some partners to help them solve some really elite problems, and very specifically, we spent a few years really digging into head health, the concussion issues that really challenge the football industry. Just from youth programs up through professional programs, we care deeply about the safety of our athletes. And as data-driven solutions became more prominent, we were able to study the data and really engage a broader community of problem solvers to think through how we might be able to make materials and solutions so that our athletes could be safer and could play with greater confidence. So that was one of our very early and really exciting partnership collaborations.
We came in partway through that one, though, didn't we?
You did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember you reached out, and I think where we leaned was really supporting and building crowd, if memory serves. Was that the area?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And
yeah.
my goodness, when HeroX calls the crowd in, the crowd responds. Talk about a passionate community. This was just a problem series that a lot of folks can get behind, whether you're an avid fan or a data scientist or a material scientist. There's so many angles in that problem set. There were so many angles in that problem set that the people could get behind, and in organizations could really attack. So the crowdsourcing approach was so powerful because there were so many angles that needed help and that people were very passionate about. So incredibly successful. We also did some really meaningful work with the state of Massachusetts, if you recall.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
Yeah, we were looking at longevity, and we worked closely with state of Massachusetts and MIT to think about how new technologies and models could help us solve kind of longevity issues, right? So loneliness and care at home, and it was just really powerful to bring, because once again, longevity is a topic that touches everyone in many ways, and I really loved that project. It was just it was a program that once again introduced elite problems, but about which a very broad community was very passionate about. So, and then
sorry, go ahead.
And then the last of my favorite examples is, of course, NASA, right? And the Futurescaping program that we did, the virtual think tank with your community. It was really beautiful, and I just loved the fact that the winners of that particular program were a father and his two daughters. I just Team Sparkletron.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just beautiful. It was fabulous that they won the NASA program. It was great.
Yeah, and I think just building on what you've just shared there, it's having like, first of all, for our audience, I know we're talking about a few different projects, and we could probably talk about each project for an hour on its own. But if you want to go onto the HeroX site, you can check out the NFL one. It's called the Helmet Challenge, NFL Helmet Challenge, and the other one that Dyan was mentioning was the In Good Company Challenge. So that's the one that we did through state of Massachusetts. So you can take a look at those. But to some of the points, Diane, that you're making, is if you have a really great challenge idea, that's like a beautiful place to start. But you want to be able to craft that challenge and take that ask out to the crowd in a really compelling and meaningful way. Because what we've learned is, in doing some research actually with Harvard, is that the reason people compete on challenges is money is actually number 3. So it's actually not number 1, and that's what's really, really interesting. So when we design challenges, and when you design challenges, Dan, and you're so intentional and so creative with this, you create the content in a way that it's just compelling and intriguing. People want to support something and be a part of something larger. They want to learn something new. And quite frankly, a lot of them do it because they tinker at night and they just want to have fun. Architects that have a full-time job, an architect from Honolulu was one of our winners for a bottle opener challenge for Anheuser-Busch. So just creating that content that when we do take it to the crowd is really, really important and critical in really driving that traffic to that challenge page. And that's really what the essence of driving crowd and marketing the challenge is all about, making sure that you understand your audience. And Even the last one you were speaking about, which is the NASA one. First of all, I have to say, if you had asked me, 7 or 8 years ago, hey, Cal, will you ever work with NASA? I would have laughed at you. But to know that, that we have this great relationship with the NASA team, and their contracting platform isn't just for themselves. It's actually inclusive of a number of federal agencies in the U.S. So we get the pleasure of working with a lot of federal agencies, from Bureau of Reclamation and so many there to name. But it's astounding that NASA has rocket scientists at their fingertips, but even they see the value of going to the crowd. I really want our listeners to be present to that. It's the magic lives in that fresh way of thinking. The most disruptive ideas come from those that are outside of their space. And the magic, you guys, is, your journey in life, each and every one of you, is unique. And it's from your journey and your experiences, which is where you draw ideas from. So this is not something that will ever be replaced. Open innovation and crowdsourcing are here to stay. You cannot replace the thinking of each and every one of you. That's where the magic lives. And that's what's so hugely astounding when, we get winners from the most unlikely of places.
Well, those are some incredible insights, Cal, and I always find it's so interesting when you hear the information on what ultimately drives the innovators community. But I think that's a fantastic segue into my heavy hitting final question, since we're approaching our time here. But both of you have been veterans in the space. You've seen lots of different projects with some really interesting clients. I'd love to finish off with your insights in what you've seen the open innovation ecosystem, the changes it's made over your time here, what it looks like now, and your vision for it over the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, Dyan, I invite you to go first, but Adam, I'm going to take a pot shot at you. Veteran, are you calling us old?
I'm quoting Dyan.
Sorry, you walked into that one.
Yep. My read was, "You old ladies."
I'm just stealing the quote from you, Dyan. I think
you nice. Very smooth. Very smooth.
Very smooth.
Okay, so I'll kind of lead this one, and Cal, you bring us home. But I think that we've seen a real step change in the world's readiness and appetite for open innovation. It used to be, back in the day, Adam. It was a curiosity and a novelty. Where organizations might run a project or a series of projects. But I think the pandemic was both an operational and a psychological unlock for the global community, where we all recognized really overnight, and to varying degrees, that the world doesn't have to be 6 feet away in the office, right, on another swivel chair. Our team can be around the world and can collaborate and drive value just as easily as if they were 6 feet away. So the world suddenly became an extension of your team operationally, and then the pace of change and the fragility of our old operating systems, I think, has really caused business leaders to rethink the way they mobilize ideas and expertise and capacity and solutions, and very specifically those 4 kind of pillars of value. And you don't have to have a W-2 relationship to be able to make meaningful contributions. to the mission of an organization. And frankly, combining employees with non-employees just creates a really powerful dynamic in solutioning. So we're going to see, I think, increasingly organizations with a very thin layer of on-book strategic resources that are responsible for the strategy and the orchestration of the organization's mission, but who are increasingly creating almost an API-based approach to expertise and solutions and ideas and capacity that is in fact the global brain, that most of which will sit outside of the organization. And so these models are absolutely essential, and we're only going to see an increasing utilization of an ecosystem, a type of operating model. So Cal, with that, over to you.
Yeah, you know what? You've said it so beautifully. You're so eloquent, so tough to follow. But I just taking a bit of a step back to when I first came into the space, which would have been 2015. When we think about the overall understanding what crowdsourcing is, that understanding has definitely gone up. Like when I joined in 2015, many of our clients would, jump on calls with us and they would be confused between crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. So, I mean, I would say a good percentage of my calls started out with, no, this isn't crowdfunding. I can't help you, but here are a few places that you can go. Whereas now what we're finding is being at the tip of the spear, if you will, that we've really noticed that there's a much broader understanding of what crowdsourcing really is. I mean, there was a TV show for a while, I remember. I don't remember what the name of it was. I think it's Intelligence of the Crowd or something like that. But I mean, to the point where they're actually creating TV shows about it. So I think there's a much greater understanding of what crowdsourcing is. And that's, a foundational necessity to getting it to a place of market adoption. And I'd say we are closer to that today than ever before. And to your point, Dyan, I would agree with you. I think with the pandemic, I think it's really fueled and really heightened the awareness of the necessity of having innovation within organizations. So those organizations that really lacked an innovation strategy really suffered during the pandemic, and so many of them didn't survive. So if you have, innovation strategies, and most certainly an open innovation strategy within that, you're really giving yourself an added advantage, and you're able to pivot in an environment where things were crashing and burning, but so many organizations pivot and shifted, and they were able to do that because, they have a company culture that really allows for you to do that. And I think what's to add to what you've already shared is I would say to organizations that, if you're interested in open innovation, understanding how it works and the mechanics of it is just the first step. I would probably offer that the most important part is understanding how it fits within your organization and how it's received. And that's almost more important. And when I think about crowdsourcing, I oftentimes draw a parallel to digital marketing. And, I remember way back in the day when digital marketing kind of showed up, a lot of people saw it as a fad. It's like, what is this thing? What is this Facebook thing? What is this LinkedIn thing? But it wasn't. It was actually a new way to market. In fact, I would probably say that it is the way to market now. And when you take traditional marketing practices, the industry, I would say, was probably knocked on its side when digital marketing really took off. Mm-hmm. So, it's not always clear as to how certain business practices are going to support your organization. But there is definitely a missed opportunity if you don't start to actually go in and start doing that discovery, what that due diligence is, because every organization is going to be at a different spot. Some have understanding, others don't. Some need more schooling and more knowledge, others don't. So, yeah. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's my favorite question to finish off with, because getting both of your visions into the future is really interesting and exciting to hear. But we are almost at time here, so I unfortunately we do have to wrap up. But I want to thank you both again for a fantastic conversation and some great laughs. Your insights into the open innovation and the partnerships are incredibly interesting and valuable. It was a pleasure having both of you here today. I'll give you another minute or so each if you have any other final thoughts, and then I can wrap things up for us.
I'd like to thank you both and our audience for the time and the perspective and the partnership. This is just such an exciting time, and I'm so grateful for this partnership and the ability to learn from and collaborate with you. So thank you again.
Thanks, Dyan.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Thanks, Adam, for hosting both myself and Dyan. It was an absolute pleasure. Dan, you and I just speak so seamlessly. I think it's been so many years since we've been chatting, so it's always a pleasure, and I always take away so many great thoughts from the eloquence and the way you share. So thank you for the meaningful conversation.
Thanks, Cal. And yes, thank you to everyone who joined us today live for this fantastic session. Keep your sights on these powerful leaders as they mold the open innovation ecosystem. You can find them both here on Twitter. They'll be tagged they're tagged in our event post, but they'll be tagged in our follow-up post as well, or on LinkedIn. You can find them. To all our listeners today, if you have any questions or anything post-show, please feel free to shoot myself a message. I'm always happy to chat and continue these conversations online. Again, my name is Adam Olsen. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can catch this session and past episodes at innovationheroes.buzzsprout.com. The link to the recording will be made available along with handy content snippets that you can use to forward your own innovation goals. We have a very exciting next session on September 26th, where we'll actually be going live from the Future Fest in Toronto with a special guest. Keep an eye out for the official announcement coming next week. Looking forward to being with you then. Reach out anytime at possibilities@HeroX.com. And again, thank you, Cal and Dyan, and everybody for being with us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.